All right, folks, breaking news in this Karmelo Anthony, his new trial bid. All right, take a look. We got so much to cover on this.
Yeah, John, today we are hearing a lot of new evidence that was never made public during the trial, including details of what investigators found on Karmelo Anthony's phone and why it is that they believe he took a knife to this track meet last year in April. During opening statements, prosecutors revealed Anthony had a documented pattern of obsession with knives and guns. In one text message, Anthony allegedly fantasized about stabbing someone, writing, "When I stab somebody, I'm going to lick their blood off the blade." Prosecutors say they also have numerous examples of Anthony's desire to start fights and to be in fights, and they argue that's what he went to the track meet to do that day. The reason none of that came out at trial is that the defense and prosecution had what they're describing as a gentleman's agreement, an off-the-record understanding that neither side would go into character evidence, including allegations of violence and bullying by Austin Metcalf. Instead, both sides would focus on what happened under the tent the day of the stabbing. The defense now argues that Anthony chose not to testify in his own defense because at the last minute of the trial, prosecutors reversed course and told them if Anthony takes the stand, it would violate their agreement and open the door to all of those character issues being brought out. That agreement is a key part of the defense's argument as to why it is that Anthony deserves a new trial. And that's something we're going to continue to hear a lot more about through the rest of today and possibly into tomorrow. John?
I would assume if he gets a new trial, all of the stuff that was presented in court today would probably be admissible, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely. Prosecutors have already said that's part of the reason both sides agreed to this deal is because they didn't want to further enrage this public debate that was happening outside, where this was really, they felt, throwing gas onto an already big fire if they brought out a lot of these character attacks. Of course, going forward to the next trial, that agreement would not be in place, and all of this would be fair game. Prosecutors said they would have brought all of this up if it weren't for that agreement.
Wow. All right. All right, folks. This is the right verdict. We are going to get into all of this tonight. Buckle up. Lot to cover. So just to bring everybody up to date, as of today, Karmelo Anthony's motion for a new trial is being heard by a new judge after the original trial judge was recused the day before. The hearing is ongoing and centers heavily on a disputed gentleman's agreement. That's what they were just talking about, that kept character evidence out of the June trial. Exactly the kind of material that's now spilling out. And Nicole, before we started, you were talking about some more information. So what's going on here? Can you hear me?
Listen, it's getting really, really ugly with this information that's coming out. Can you guys see me? I know I've had internet problems because it's storming.
I think it's a lag.
Okay. No,
it's getting really ugly. All the things that have been held out by this gentleman's agreement are going to come out. And some of this is Austin Metcalf, getting in trouble in elementary school, middle school, him and his twin out spray painting Heil Hitler and all that kind of thing. And some occasions of bullying for Austin Metcalf. Now, none of this means that he deserved to be murdered. None of this is really pertinent to what happened under the tent. However, some of the things that are coming out about Karmelo Anthony, you talk about raising some eyebrows, breaking up with his girlfriend that morning and her reporting that he was stalking her and how he was fascinated by guns and knives and fighting and killing. All of this was that gentleman's agreement to keep all of it out before it got ugly. Now they're asking for, a new trial. It's a slim shot he might get one, but does he really want one? That's the question.
Yeah. Shelley, your thoughts?
Wait a minute. I got to pull a little pop in politics over here real quick. Nicole, I beg to differ. I have a fascination with guns, but certainly not murdering people.
There you go.
Okay. But you didn't murder somebody. You weren't involved.
I'm saying having a fascination with guns in and of itself is not necessarily
not exactly.
No, but okay. However, on a more serious note, from the beginning, if you all remember, when we first started talking about the Karmelo Anthony case on this channel, The Right Verdict, one of the things I said, I want everything to come out in court under oath, with the judge, the jury, the two sides. I wanted everything to come out. Why? Primarily because these things happen. Just because a trial has a verdict, whatever side you may fall on, that doesn't mean necessarily that that's the end, okay, as we can see. So now we are kind of back here a little bit, maybe not, but this is why I want it. And yes, the what's coming out now is it doesn't look good for Karmelo, and it doesn't necessarily look good for Austin. Of course, Austin was not on trial. However, I think it's 50-50 what is coming out now that could be for Karmelo or against him. It could go either way. If the defense can argue,
what do you think is 50-50 that can go either way specifically?
Yeah, because the defense can argue that not necessarily successfully. They can argue, number one, that because their client, I guess, or their client was not able to testify, that they did not put up a sufficient self-defense defense. And possibly that some of the things that we're hearing, maybe they could have argued for a plea of maybe some kind of insanity, or I'm just saying these are possibilities.
Well,
they're possibilities. I didn't say that was going to happen. I said these are possibilities.
Well, so Karmelo chose not to testify.
That's what I was going to say.
When it came down to the last day of the trial and the anticipation was for him to testify, the prosecutor said, listen, you guys have already violated the gentleman's agreement by talking about him through other people, what he liked to do, how he liked to spend time. But so you need to know, if you call him, I'm bringing all of this as by their right. Here's the problem with the gentleman's agreement. There are no more gentlemen.
Exactly. And there's no such thing as a legal that the judge has to be held to the gentleman's agreement.
Nobody has to be held to
the gentleman's
agreement. But what Karmelo had to decide, they said he had 10 minutes to make that decision. If he took the stand, that everything about him was going to come in. The arrest in Louisiana, the problems that he had, the mental health treatment that he underwent for anger management, the behavioral health treatment, the reason why they moved from Baton Rouge up to Texas, all of that was going to come in. His family dynamics, the breaking up with the girlfriend, all the text messages from the girlfriend's documented complaint of him stalking her, all of that was going to come in. Every single bit of that was going to come in. It was going to be state of mind evidence. That's enough as an adult person to scare me out of not opening my mouth. Now, I think his strongest piece of evidence to get, or not even evidence, the strongest argument to get him this new trial that he would like to have would be dereliction of his legal team. Absolutely. That would really be the only legal repercussion, because that decision in and of itself, on the record, was wholly his. He can't hold him accountable by his decision not to testify. That was the decision that he made as a grown man on trial for this murder. With that said, his legal team, and we all discussed this before, was quite lacking in that first trial. It was quite lacking in that first trial. Those gentlemen hemmed them up. Mm-hmm.
That's why I say 50-50. Again, whether or not you are in agreement with the verdict for Karmelo or not, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not arguing that. Mm-hmm. I'm saying the legal pathways and or possibilities. Not saying one is guaranteed, but these are possibilities. As we can see, we are here on appeal, and the judge, I think Judge Roach, he was already removed from the case for, I guess, bias or whatever the legal terminology may be.
Well, he did an interview. Yeah.
Right. And he again, what you say can and will be used against you. I mean, rule number one. So he's removed. Again, whether or not you like Judge Roach is not the issue. The issue is he was removed for I don't know how you measure it, but he was removed for a legitimate reason, because he started running his mouth immediately after the case, and it was going to be an appeal, and he was the judge that sat on the first case. So it just didn't. I'm just saying these are possibilities. That's all.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, lots of stuff has come out in the last couple of days regarding this, and of course now the focal point, of whether or not he will get a new trial. Want to ask you, ladies, Nicole, based on what we have so far, do you think he'll get a new trial?
No, I don't think he's gotten anywhere near the legal burden to say that his first trial was legally, there were errors that prevented him from having a fair trial. Now, I think the court of public opinion has a lot more to say about it. And I think it was a very good decision for the associate judge that came in that heard recusing of Judge Roach. However, he's going to wish he had Judge Roach, because the judge that they brought out of retirement, Judge Chitty, lifelong Republican, lifelong traditionalist. He gonna plead for them days where he wanted that Judge Roach who liked to be on the camera. This guy is not to be played with. He's known for giving people more time on appeal than they were originally sentenced to.
Shelley, your thoughts based off of what we found so far. Do you think he'll get a new trial?
I think it's possible. I don't know if it's probable. That's number one. I think it's possible because we are at this point. I'm not an attorney.
I know you're not, but this is the right verdict.
The right verdict is that legally it's going through the appeals process. Right. We are here thus far. From the beginning, legally, quote unquote, I said I wanted everything to come out in court from the beginning.
But do you think that he's going to get a new trial, or you don't?
No, I don't know, and I'm not basing it on necessarily this judge per se. I forget how you pronounce his name. Chitty. Again, I'm not worrying about necessarily whether he's a Republican or not, because that shouldn't even matter. It should matter.
We're not talking about. She's talking about.
I know that this
Nicole says she believes he will not get a new trial, but
I know that. And Nicole
this is not a good judge.
Nicole mentioned that he's a Republican.
So the question is, do you think he'll get a new trial? You don't know.
I think it's possible.
All right, folks, sound off in the chat. Let us know what you think, please. Do you think he'll get a new trial? Or do you think this is it based off of what you've seen? You don't believe that he'll get a new trial? Let us know what you think. All right. So we got so much stuff to talk about, folks. As we said at the top of the show, this is the right verdict. All right. So, this is a new channel for us. So we are hoping that you guys come on in here and subscribe, help us grow this channel. All right. This is a channel where we talk about, true crime, court cases, cases that have closed, and cases that are ongoing. All right. And so we really want you guys to come on in and check this out. The Right Verdict. We are on here every Thursday night at 10 p.m. That's The Right Verdict. All right. So before we close this out, any last thoughts, ladies? Shelley, any last thoughts? Final thoughts?
Oh, one of the things I do want to, right. Yeah, I do want to make this point as well. We think, not just us, I'm not talking about us per se, but we think that the law is very linear. It is not. There are byways and highways, off ramps, on ramps, whatever, which is why we're here. Because if the law was so straightforward all the time, then we wouldn't have appeals. We wouldn't necessarily need to have a retrial, all these things. So that's why I'm saying it's possible. Again, whether I agree,
it's possible.
That's it.
That's not the question. We know it's possible.
You said, do I think he will? Now, do I want him to have a new trial? I would say probably not. Do I want him to? But can he get a new trial? It's very possible.
Of course it's possible.
So we have a question in the chat, and it's from Angela Cox, looks like.
Okay.
Yes. She says, I have a question. How did his appeal get through so fast, being there's so many people waiting for their case to be heard? It's not the appeal yet. This is the hearing to figure out whether or not his legal argument rises to the occasion of having a new trial. So this happens fairly quickly in Texas. It really does. And in this particular instance, he has not just like one, attorney who's got 50,000 other cases. No, he's got what they're calling a legal dream team. Now, I don't know if it's a dream or a nightmare, but he's got a bunch of attorneys who are all hands on deck because the private money that has been donated and raised and the effort from some corners of certain communities to get him a new trial has been profound and significant. So there's been a big push to make it happen much faster. You're right, than a normal case would, but that is again because of the firepower that's behind this case.
Exactly.
All right. All right. Yeah, excellent. Excellent. So we will continue to follow this case, folks, and keep you up to date on what's going on. All right. So moving right along, we want to talk about this surrogate case, this viral surrogate case that has come forward. Ladies, do you want to explain, at least intro this before we play this clip, the surrogate case?
This is the case with McKenna West.
Right.
Okay.
So McKenna West is a surrogate. She's a surrogate from Alaska. And she was working with a couple from California, a Hindu couple from California. And she, of course, was pregnant. She was carrying the baby healthily, happily. And I think about 20 weeks, she had some blood work done and discovered that the baby boy that she was carrying had a heart defect that was going to require life-saving surgery and likely some life-altering care after post-surgery. And according to the contract, the biological parents wanted the baby aborted. Well, McKenna says, no, ma'am, Pam, I'm keeping the baby, which is in direct violation of the contract. So there's lots of saber rattling going on. McKenna, being the wise woman that she is, packs her stuff up and moves to the great state of Texas, where aborting a baby is very hard, even if the baby, is yours. So this is another couple's baby, which, is an issue in Texas in and of itself, but there's absolutely not any abortion going to happen. In fact, Governor Abbott jumped in with the last minute order saying that Texas would give this baby the life-saving surgery or care it would need at birth. And so it got kind of political, but the baby is here. McKenna calls the baby boy Gabriel. His biological parents call him Rumi, R-U-M-I. So here we are. Now we've got
this is just crazy.
Yeah. Now we've got a baby with a biological mother and father who are on the record wanting him dead. Let's do that. And we have a surrogate mother who loves this baby and wants to keep the baby.
Well, now let me add, I don't know if you were going to say this, but I do want to add that the parents, it's been reported that the bio parents, the couple, are saying that they are going to keep and I guess raise this baby now. They have custody, and I'm not sure if they're still in Texas or California, but I think they may be still in Texas because he still has some surgeries to go through.
Right. And here's the thing, McKenna wants her baby back. And she's saying, this is my baby. I carried this baby. You didn't even want this baby. So this is going to bring up all of those questions again about surrogacy, and moving from one state to another where the abortion laws or the right to life laws favor your point of view. So this is going to change a lot of these surrogacy contracts. That some of the portions of the contract say, if there's a blood test or amniocentesis that shows that this baby is going to have a certain type of disease or illness or disorder, we reserve the right to terminate the pregnancy as the biological parents of this child.
Did it say that? That was not in the contract?
So yeah, per the contract, which is why even though Gabriel or Rumi, the baby is born and is being cared for in Texas at the hospital, this is why the parents are still suing McKenna, the surrogate, because they're saying that she breached the contract.
$100,000.
They're still suing her for about $100,000. So this case is big in the sense that it covers the gamut, talking about legal and being not linear. Okay, legal, moral, political, if you will, medical, biological, all it crosses so many different categories. And I'm excited, quote unquote, excited to see the outcome of this.
Agreed.
Well, let's talk. McKenna was on with Megyn Kelly, I believe today, either yesterday or today, with her attorneys talking about this case. Take a look here.
No, that was a couple weeks ago because she was still pregnant then, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
And the same day they did this interview, I think she went into labor that night or the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I just didn't know what to do. I felt very trapped due to this contract and felt like I had no voice. But I knew in my soul and my heart that I wanted to protect this little boy. And thankfully, my brother was, it was put on his heart to call me and just speak hope and courage into me. And he and his wife even offered to adopt this baby if it meant me not having to go through this late-term abortion.
Wow. Right. Because at this point, the baby's almost 5 months in utero. And this is, you start to feel the baby moving. It's like, this is a very special time for a mother.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it would be like to be told that you must abort the baby, like that you must.
Yeah.
So you didn't, which is extraordinary. And it must have taken a lot of prayers and courage on your part. And now it's devolved into a legal battle. So let me bring in Lincoln at this point, your lawyer. So Lincoln.
Before we go forward, I just want to make sure everybody understands how this surrogacy works. So biologically, the baby is not McKenna's, correct?
Correct.
Right. Okay. She's carrying the baby from the sperm and the egg from this couple that paid her to be the body to hold the baby, to bring the baby to life.
The vehicle. Yes.
Vehicle, right. Vehicle.
In legal terms, she's called the gestational parent or gestational
surrogate. Right. Okay. So okay. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Okay. Let's keep going here. Now now her attorneys are going to go through this case.
Was the legal battle, did the parents try to force the abortion? Has a court ruled on that? Because McKenna did not abort the baby. She is pregnant right now.
No, they didn't try to force an abortion in court. What really happened was that after McKenna had resisted and they'd put on essentially a pressure campaign to force her to abort, they even enlisted her own prior counsel to serve her with a demand of $250,000 with a process server in the middle of the night. And when they were unsuccessful in doing that, what they did was they pivoted to California and they filed a lawsuit in California, even though the contract requires any litigation in Alaska where McKenna lives. They said, we're filing suit in California and we want an expedited judgment of parentage. And our basic understanding is that what they want to do is if they're declared the parents, and unfortunately the California court did declare them to be the parents, then they can make the decision about medical care and they can decide when this baby's born that they won't give him any care and he'll be dead in a matter of days without it. McKenna is unequivocally willing to fight for his life, though.
Wow. So, lot to cover here. My first question on this for you ladies, why would you agree to do this if you knew that, again, and I'm not for abortion at all, but why would you agree to do this if you knew that if something happened, you would not abort the baby like these biological parents wanted and stated in the contract?
So wait a minute, you're saying why would McKenna agree to be a surrogate if she was not willing to abort? That's a good question. Actually, that's a good question. And I don't know. I can't answer that for her. But McKenna's already has, I think, 2 children. She already has children of her own. Of course, my best thought about this would be that McKenna and the biological parents had no thought, if you will, that the baby would have any kind of defects. Certainly not in utero. I'm just saying this. Right, on best case, certainly not in utero that will require life-saving surgery initially after birth. So that's my best look at this. So nobody was thinking that this would be an outcome.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying to you, but I mean, we've all 3 of us have had kids. Okay. I don't know about y'all, but and maybe I'm just the type of person that always, hopes for the best and plans for the worst. But I mean, when I'm pregnant, that's all I thought about. What's going on? Something's wrong with the baby. I mean, who doesn't think that if you have a baby, there may be some type of issue? Well, and you're a surrogate. You don't think, well, if there is an issue, I'm not going to be able to abort this baby. Maybe I shouldn't do this.
Well, she's probably had several 100,000 little reasons why it did not cross her mind, because surrogates get paid very, very well. It's not like they wrote her a check for $250 and patted her on the back and said, go for the gold, sis. This is a very expensive process. This is a very expensive, quote unquote, endeavor for the birth parents. The contract is ironclad. There's no wiggle room in the contract, and it's not a small thing. These contracts are several hundred pages. It covers from the rooter to the tutor, what can happen and what should not happen. And she had counsel that the new counsel, Mr. Lincoln here, has been disparaging, but she had counsel who told her what was in the agreement. She not only agreed, but signed it and got paid, because I think they get paid incrementally, got paid along the way up until that 20 weeks mark where the rubber met the road. She has 2 healthy children already. And in her mind, the money outweighed any remote chance that she would have anything other than yet another healthy, bouncy baby, right? But you never know. And that's what the contract was written for. It was written for all kinds of weird things that can happen, because she's not the first surrogate to have that flood of hormones and then something be wrong with the baby. And you're like, oh no, I'm attached to this baby. And now it's a political football, because the move from Alaska to Texas showed that she was much more savvy than the parents gave her credit for. Much more savvy.
That's why I don't like this. I don't like this. And I'm not talking from a legal standpoint, this surrogacy. It puts all kinds of, I don't like it.
So let me say this.
It's the contract, the whole money situation. It's just not right to me. And then this happens.
Right. So KJ, to your question, which is a good question, I would say the flip side of your question would be, because these contracts are so thorough, like you said, hundreds of pages, I'm wondering if that question was asked to her by the bio parents and their attorneys. Could you reasonably or whatever, contractually abort the baby? Or did they know that she may have had some maybe religious, moral, consternation about aborting? I'm saying that question could be asked both ways. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting thing that you just brought up there, Shelley, is because seemingly everybody was assuming that this was going to be a healthy baby, and everybody except for the attorneys. And the attorneys were like, right, everybody wants a beautiful, healthy baby. But when stuff goes left, here are the parameters and the guidelines. This thing happens and we're going to do A, B, C, and D. And that's going to be the resolution to that. She had time to contemplate this before the embryo was placed. The birth parents had a chance to think about it and say, well, maybe, if something happens, how do I feel, like you were just saying, about asking this person to terminate, the life of this child? Where do we fall morally on that? Sometimes I think, though, that people get so excited about the outcome, they forget about what can happen during the process. And I think this is what happened in this case.
Right. And keep in mind, I mean, I've read things about surrogates, and I actually talked to a surrogate years ago. I knew one. One of the things that biological parents look for in a surrogate typically is someone who has already had children. This is not their first child, right? So someone who has living healthy children, because they are looking at the emotional attachment and the difficulty. Most likely it would be for a woman to I'll say hand over her baby, particularly if she doesn't already have children. So that's one of the things they look for. So that's probably why she already had 2 children, and whatever the contract, whatever they agreed about, they probably said, okay, she was the best candidate to fit those stipulations.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about the legal ramifications of this. So, as we mentioned, this is gestational surrogacy, usually severs the surrogate's parental rights via contract and pre-birth orders. California is a surrogacy-friendly state and has already ruled in the parent's favor on parentage. Texas law is the more traditional birth mothers, as default mother in some contexts, and heavily pro-life post Dobbs. So that's of course why she crossed state lines. Courts are unlikely to let a surrogate simply keep a genetically unrelated child she agreed to carry for pay, but the Texas birth and AG involvement complicate the path. But she's already given the baby back. Is that right? So another question I have here is, she's given the baby back. Why are the parents right? But why are the parents then suing her? Just for breach of contract?
Basically, yes. Basically, because she. Go ahead.
Not only for the breach of the contract, but now their private personal business, because all of this is supposed to remain private. Their entire names are out there. Now everybody knows about the baby. And can you imagine the heartbreaking decision that these parents had to make, these biological parents had to make? Again, this is their sperm, this is their egg, this is their child. Biologically, this is their child. To know that this child was going to have severe and profound heart issues that can be, surgically repaired, but would likely cost this child, some of their years of their youth. It takes them a little time to get, up to speed with other children. Making the decision that that's not what you want in a child, it probably did not come easy for this couple. Did not come easy to say, you know what? It wasn't like, well, his hair is going to be straight, off with his head. That's not what they were saying. That they looked at the long-term health implications of what this child's quality of life was going to be like.
And their finances to care for the baby.
Exactly. And they had to make a decision. So she kind of forced them into a different position and then outed them publicly on top of it. So now you have people like us who are going, these people wanted to kill this baby. So they should not have any say over this child. They should not have that. But the parents are saying, the biological parents are saying, hold on. This is our baby. And if the mother had been carrying this baby, this would have been a private decision made in a doctor's lane with the physician saying, this child is going to have these issues. You're 20 weeks along. What do you want to do? In certain states, Texas ain't one of them states, but in certain states like California, they could have made decisions if she has carried their own baby herself. So this brings in a whole lot of medical issues, lots and lots of medical issues in what it's like to be pregnant in one state versus another.
Absolutely. The law is not linear.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about what exactly is the medical condition of the baby. So the baby was diagnosed with hypoplastic left heart syndrome, HLHS. It's a serious congenital heart defect. Okay. So basically it's a rare condition in which the left side of the heart is severely undeveloped and can't effectively pump oxygenated blood to the body, I think.
Absolutely. That's pretty much it.
I actually have a relative whose child had this, I believe.
It's rare, but congenital heart defects are pretty common. It's more common than people think in babies. Oh, well, certainly in babies, congenital heart defects.
So you're saying this type is rare, but congenital heart defects are not. Is that what you're
This
saying?
is just one of several different
Oh, okay.
congenital heart defects. So this one might be a little bit rarer than the other ones, but congenital heart defects under the whole category are pretty common, if you will. I'll say common, based on population, whatever.
And then some are easier to repair than others.
Exactly.
Some of them don't have long lasting. The defect in and of itself is not the issue. It's the symptomology, right? The lack of oxygenated blood to your other organs and to your brain that would cause, in some babies, failure to thrive, right? So the baby is born, he's not getting enough oxygenated blood through his body. It can cause severe mental retardation, cognitive deficit, deafness, blindness. I mean,
death as far as deceased, particularly in a newborn. I mean, the main things in newborns you're always concerned about certainly are the lungs, the pulmonary, and of course, in this case, the heart. So if you're not pumping out blood, oxygenated blood, then you still have the pulmonary system that's going to be affected. And then, of course, like Nicole said, the brain and all your organs. Newborns they are particularly a higher risk, certainly just because they're newborns and they're breathing outside of the body, outside of the mom's body on their own. So they have a lot of high risks, certainly because of that.
And there's so many factors into that. And it's just one of the things that I think we can be absolutely proud of in this nation is at the rate that we test women for genetic disease when they're pregnant, and then having solutions, right? Having the solution to this, having a quote unquote fix to it. Because by all accounts, baby Gabriel / Rumi / the baby boy still has a couple of surgeries, but he's alive. He's alive. And that's a beautiful thing. There are nations on this globe where, baby Rumi, baby Gabriel was not going to make it. He was not going to make it. So, kudos to the doctors and the geneticists and everyone else involved who diagnosed this correctly, treated it promptly. And the state of Texas saying, listen, the baby's going to be born here. He's going to be Texan, and we're going to give him life-saving care, period. You guys can work out y'all legal wrangling later, but we're going to save this baby. And so that's a good thought.
Yeah, that was a good
born. And like you said, in Dallas, he's already undergone his first stage of surgical treatment under the court-appointed care. And
that was a point. That's a good point. The court appointed not just the care, but they finally I think right after he was born, they finally appointed a court
guardian ad litem.
Guardian ad litem. I couldn't think of the word. Thank you. A guardian ad litem, which means that this particular person or role is only for the benefit of the baby. Damn the adults, damn the bio, sperm, and egg donors, damn McKenna for that matter. Okay. That court appointed guardian ad litem is only for what is in the best interest of baby Gabriel Rumi.
This is terrible.
It is.
I'm saying this because, first off, the idea of the naming. Why? And help me if I'm reading this incorrectly. Why did she name their baby? Why did the surrogate name their baby?
She didn't name him legally. That was her emotional attachment to the baby, carrying the baby. Most women, when you're pregnant, you kind of call your baby something. Many women already know what they're going to name their baby before they're born. So that was a part of her physiological, biological, emotional, hormonal attachment. Legally, the baby's name is what the parents had, Rumi, but she just named him Gabriel. That was her emotional attachment. I don't see a problem with that, but I mean, legally, that's not his name.
I just think
there's a problem. Again, this whole thing is just it's out of order. It's out of order. The whole surrogacy thing is out of order. The fact that I'm not saying that I get that she felt a connection and had to name the. I understand that.
Right.
But my question, but it shouldn't have happened. I mean, this should be the parents doing that, not her. But then you have the parents who wanted to abort the baby.
So here's the thing. I think when we think about this, who is more of the parents of this child? This is a big legal question, and not so much a medical question, but it's a very big legal question, right? So here are the people who have the products of conception, right? The two people who made the life, the sperm, the egg. These are the biological parents, as we call them in lay terms. Technically, this is their baby. When you look at the biology of it, this baby carries their X and Y's from these two people who gave the actual DNA for the baby to live, right? Then you have this person who's carrying this baby. This is the heartbeat that the baby hears all the time. They're sharing blood, they're sharing food, all of this. Which one of these entities is more of a parent to this baby than the other?
The biological ones are biologically, medically, and legally.
Well,
they signed a contract.
They signed a contract. I mean, you're right. Biologically, they are, and I think they are. I think it is their baby. I ultimately think it is their baby. But I want to take it outside. Just take it a little bit, not surrogacy. Okay. One of the comparisons I came up with is adoption. Okay. So when a woman has a baby, for whatever reason, she and the father, for whatever reason, she wants to give the baby up for adoption. Okay. The people who raise the baby, who invest in the child, rear, discipline, train, they are the parents, even though that baby is not genetically theirs. Now, granted, I do know sometimes adoptions go awry and people come. I get all that. I'm just saying on just for comparison's sake. So if you are putting in the work for the child, then you are mommy and daddy. It doesn't matter where the baby came from in that sense. That's number one.
What you talking about, in adoption?
Yes, in adoption.
Oh,
and
number two.
So I'm saying that to say, because legally, legally I'm guessing that's part of the contract, because legally those bio parents probably have to at some point have to legally adopt this baby, even though it's theirs biologically, because it wasn't born from that bio mom's body. Number two. One of the things is that I see people putting in the chat, and I hear people saying,
wait. I'm sorry. Say what you just said again.
Usually, well, let me say this. From what I've seen and what I understand, when there's a surrogacy, right? When there's a surrogacy, part of the contract, because depending on the state, there has to be a legal transfer, adoption, whatever you want to call it, of that baby once the baby is born. And that's why I'm using that word adoption. That's why I'm using the adoption for the example. Although the baby was theirs biologically, legally, it's kind of like a chain of custody, if you will. You have to follow the chain. And so,
this is terrible.
I know it is a mess. I agree with you there. But one of the things I want to address, the second point, it's closely related, but maybe not necessarily. People are saying that the bio parents, they shouldn't have the baby. They wanted to kill the baby initially. Well, just for reference, there are women who thought about aborting, but did not abort, and they had their babies that they love now today. Okay, and for whatever reason, they thought about it initially, fear, confusion, whatever, misinformation, but they chose to not abort, and they love their baby. So, are you going to take those babies from those moms, or you're saying that they can't be good moms? That doesn't necessarily follow. It just doesn't.
I think one of the things.
Go ahead.
One of the most important hurdles, and it kind of plays into what you were saying, Shelley, and KJ, the question that you asked, is that the court in California came in and gave the distinction of parenthood to the biological parents, because in California, that's the way the law is written. If you are the people who give the genetic material for the child, because surrogacy, that's what they mean by surrogacy friendly state. If you give the biological things necessary for the child to be created, whether in the test tube, in the lab, whatever that is, you are the parent. You are the parent. The person who's carrying the child for you, the gestational surrogate, is simply that, a vehicle. A vehicle, and in states that are not surrogate friendly, like Texas, you lay on that table and you grunt like a pig, that baby is yours. All bets is off. This is your baby. Make no mistake. So here we have these two states, two very different states, two very high-powered states saying, listen, they had the baby in Texas. The baby is a Texan. and this is our law, and we're going to follow this law. The
That's
parents
it.
are from California. Contract signed in California. Everything was done in California. Mother or gestational surrogate from Alaska. Now Alaska's like, well, we don't really have a dog in the fight. Don't nobody even live here anymore. You know what I mean? So this has gotten to a point where it's so much bigger than baby Rumi. This has got all the adults behaving badly and this child fighting for his life.
And this is why I'm saying this is at some point along the way, I'm pretty certain, but I'll just say highly suspect that the transfer of that baby from Texas to California is going to require some legal, if you want to call it adoption paperwork or whatever, because you can't just give babies, even though I know the California contract, but Texas obviously doesn't necessarily honor contracts from California because they allowed McKenna to come to Texas to have her baby. So again, it's not as straightforward.
It's terrible. And
it is.
And the thing that upsets me about this, again, because I'm a simple-minded person, and to me, things are just simple. Genetics in this thing is the only objective thing in the whole thing. The genetics, okay? The child's DNA, which exclusively comes from these the biological parents, is the only objective link here. So I don't even understand why this is even a question. They biologically belong to these parents, and the contract states that this woman, the surrogate, I don't know, y'all gonna be upset with me on this, but I think she should be paid. She needs to be sued. Again, I don't agree with abortion, but to me, if you went into this and you signed, I would not have signed up for this also if it said that I had abortion was an option, but she did. And she's in breach of the contract, okay? And she stole their baby.
Yeah.
Maybe you could say she stole it. Maybe you could say that.
Absolutely. I think she should be. I think there should be an angle to lock her up. I really do.
I don't know. Possession is not into the law.
Yeah, exactly. It is, and that's why I say I hear what you're saying, KJ. And I mean, at the essence of it, I agree and I understand where you're coming from. I guess the pushback, if there is one, that I would say is, yes, she breached the contract, okay? But at some point, and this is bigger than, let's say, McKenna or even these biological parents, right? At some point along the life's path, we maybe we have been or we will be faced with choices of life and death. Choose life. That's what McKenna did. In spite, I hear you about the contract. In spite of the contract, in spite of her breaching the contract, she chose life.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, Shelly.
Okay, go ahead.
She did not choose life when she signed the contract. When the contract was clear and it stated that abortion was an option. Once she signed that contract, she did not choose life. She chose death.
Now there is something in
you can't go back.
There is something in the law. There's something in the law that talks about
she chose money, right?
She chose money. Yeah, there's something in the law that talks about. Help me get the wording, Nicole. Consciousness.
Consciousness of, not consciousness of guilt.
Changing your conscience. Yes. Yeah. Having a moral conscience that your conscience may change. I can't think of the legal terminology, but your conscience may change when you become aware of, let's say, more information, better information, or you have a moral conviction, if you will, a change of conscience. That's what I want to say. A change of conscience. So she may have signed it. Yes. I'm not saying she didn't sign it. I'm not even saying it wasn't a breach, but I am saying that the law does allow for a change of conscience in general. Let me say that there is a place for that in the law as well. And this is what I mean.
Unless it was part of the contract, like
you can change your conscience. Your conscience can always change. I'm not saying that she's going to win. I'm not saying that she's going to win. But there is an allowance in the law that you can have a change of conscience, or I can't think of the right term for it.
Folks, this is a dangerous. this is not just a mess. This is dangerous, because if birth alone, see, folks, we gotta stand ground somewhere, because we would argue in the total opposite direction if this was on the other end. If birth alone creates some type of superior parental rights over, the biological factors within this, then every gestational surrogacy becomes some vulnerable change of heart at delivery.
Absolutely.
I don't agree with this.
They do. I don't agree
with surrogacy at all. I really don't.
They've been having these cases for a very long time, and that's why there is a money penalty, a punitive penalty for breaching the contract, and that's what the parents are suing her for. The parents aren't suing her for she moved from here to there.
Right.
They are suing her because she materially breached that contract.
Right.
In addition, pain and suffering, embarrassment, all of these things, because this was very much a private agreement, like most surrogacies are. Listen, I'm not a fan of surrogacy because it opens up unnecessary cans of worms. I understand that there are women, for whatever reason, that cannot become pregnant, that can't carry a baby to term, have genetic issues that would cause the likelihood of grave injury or death of a newborn. I get it. But I also know that there are so many children in this nation, so many kids waiting to be adopted, waiting to be taken in, waiting to be loved by another family. And I get it. This may not be your biological child, but sometimes biology is just that. Biology is just the X's and the Y's. Parenting comes from heart, like Shelley was saying earlier. The heart, that KJ said earlier. How you deal with these children. You feed them. You're up with them when they're sick at night, and you cheer for them at their baseball games. Hell, you sit through 3 seasons of soccer and you don't even like soccer. You just sit out there and suntan with the rest of the parents because that's what parents do, right? And you build a bond with these children that in some cases are much stronger than that biological bond. So there are a lot of things, a lot of moving pieces to get to the bottom of the story. Is this McKenna West, is she going to be found liable for this $100,000? There's a grave likelihood. Absolutely. She is a material breach. There's no two ways about it. There's no two ways about it. She absconded with their child. Did it rise to the level of kidnapping? I'm not sure, but she definitely violated that contract. And those biological parents, I'd want my money and my baby, because now I'm in love with baby Ruby. So what?
Right. Exactly. I can see her having to pay back the money.
Yeah.
I can see that as I guess I would say a fair judgment. I guess, I don't know, but I can see her paying back the money. But another moral question, that to your question, KJ, let's say she did go through with the abortion because she signed the contract. Then I could hear people, even on the right, calling her all kinds of names, saying she was wrong, she shouldn't have done it no matter what, she should have sacrificed. But so I mean, from a moral perspective, I think she did the right thing morally. Legally is a different factor. Morally, I think she did the right thing. She breached the contract. I'm not denying that, but I think she did it for the morally correct reasons. Should she pay the money back? I think so. At the very least, pay the money back.
What's going to be interesting is she's going to have to pay the money back and lose the baby.
Right. I don't think she's even seen the baby. They took the baby as soon as it was born.
Right away. So, right. So this whole thing for this surrogate, I don't know how much the initial contract was for. I'm sure it was well more than the $100,000 that they're suing her for. Maybe she'll get a couple $100,000 out of it for the kids that she has now. She can move back to Alaska and, move on with the rest of her life. But for these biological parents, maybe they learned a little something in this too. That sometimes when you get a diagnosis, and Shelley, you know this as well as I do being in healthcare, sometimes you get a diagnosis and it sounds so horrible. And they give you the facts and they paint you that picture that says these are terrible things that are going to happen. And then the terrible things happen. And it's not as terrible as your mind allowed it to believe. And now you've got this beautiful baby boy and $100,000 extra dollars. Count it a win. Count it a win. And by the way, stop being a surrogate. Stop hiring surrogates.
Yeah,
don't do it.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh my gosh. It's tough. I mean, this is just it's tough. It's very
It
difficult.
really
It lacks
is.
humanity. It really does.
It really is.
It's like ordering a baby on Amazon.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
now and now people are doing it like that. Folks, there was a huge story out of about Kourtney Kardashian who
Mhm.
said that she had one of her kids by surrogacy,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
she talked about how she felt sort of disconnected from the whole thing because she didn't have the baby. Other people, it's really the celebrity, wealthy class. Now many of them don't have medical issues at all. They just don't want their bodies to go through a pregnancy and have to, get back to where you were prior. And so they're choosing to do surrogacy. You look on at the Real Housewives and things like that, many of them are not having babies anymore themselves. They're getting surrogates and they have no medical issues at all. The only thing they're doing, the reason why is because, I mean, really vanity. They don't want their bodies to mess up, like we all have after having a baby.
well, it's interesting because we're talking about the law, of course, mentioned Karmelo Anthony, the different laws that may or may not apply. The cases with surrogacy, because this is still relatively new, right? It's a relatively new field, if you will, in our legal and our constitutional system. Every state pretty much has a different, I guess, a different take on it, a different legal perspective on it, a different, maybe even moral clauses, if you will. So this is not, I don't think it's going to get better, unfortunately. That's one thing. But number two, as far as surrogacy, remember, even some of the cases you mentioned, KJ, I don't know them specifically, but all surrogacies don't necessarily involve somebody else's DNA or egg or sperm. It may be a combination. It could be the surrogate mother's egg, things like that. Or so it's and then this opens up the door for even more legal challenges, because if you got a couple and maybe it's the man's sperm but the surrogate woman's egg, whose baby really, all kinds of stuff. It opens up. So this is why I think Shakespeare said, "Kill all the lawyers."
Listen, it's getting hinky though, because you guys remember, I can't remember which celebrity it was, that she married a very wealthy man and he was old and he was dying, and so she had his sperm frozen so she could make more babies and get a bigger
Was
piece
that Anna?
was it
No,
Anna?
that wasn't.
It was. I don't think it was Anna. I think it was somebody else. It was. I do remember, Nicole. It was somebody else.
like that. That
Right.
that married a really old man and said, "You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and get this extra piece of this estate." I think LJ. I think what
Well,
really
good for you, LJ. I'm still trying. All right.
listen, work out like a demon dog. Make no sense. It's crazy to me though that as far as we've come in so many other things, we still have this fascination with buying things that we should create. And I mean that in the best possible way, right? Having a baby, that whole process, carrying the baby, going through all the things is what makes you connected. It brings a greater level of connection. So when Kourtney Kardashian said, well, she felt very disconnected, right? Because your baby was being delivered by UPS. I mean, what the hell? It's very different. Now, granted, once the baby got in your arms, then it's a whole different situation. However, you missed out on all of those, the kicks, the flutters, all the things that make being pregnant super special. But some people don't mind.
In defense, Nicole, to the women and men who cannot have their own baby for whatever reason, okay? This is why I'm an advocate of adoption, because if it comes down to, okay, I'm not going to have the baby anyway if I can't carry a child for whatever reason. I'm not going to have the baby, right? So why does it matter if it's just my egg and the sperm of my husband? Why does that matter? It's not, I can't carry it anyway. I mean, it gets down to these legal, biological questions. So in my thinking, why not just adopt the baby? Just adopt.
Listen, I agree. There's plenty of kids out here who need the love. And, it seems to me they got the money, because if they can pay designer mom from Alaska, how much can it cost? Surely less than $500,000 to adopt a child. Surely.
I agree with S-Files here. I mean, messing with nature never is a good idea. I'm on there. I mean, but again, my heart goes out to these parents, because I get that you want to see, you want to see the biology, in your child. I get that. I do. I get that because I know I have a personal relationship with adoption.
Mhm.
Some people, there are cases where, and again, I'm not saying that there are cases where people who are adopted, they continually feel like they don't have a connection because they don't have the biology there. There are those cases.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I get it. But I mean, I still say just, God always, he always finds a way, I don't know.
No. I agree with you, KJ. I'm not saying that adoptive children don't necessarily. Some of them do feel disconnected, or they feel a sense of who do I belong to, or where did I come from.
Right.
I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if the choice comes down to is it the biology or is it the child that matters? That's what I'm saying. Ultimately, that's what I'm saying.
Right, I agree.
For me, Shelley, it comes down to the joy of parenting, right?
Mhm.
There's some joyous moments, and there's some moments that make you drink heavy. This makes you drink real heavy. However,
I'm still sleep deprived.
Listen, I haven't been to sleep since the early 90s. So
exactly.
Well, that's one thing I am not. I got to get my sleep now. That's one thing I do get. Two things I can do on command.
Once you have a child, you perpetually sleep deprived.
Well, I'm a night owl anyway, so
the parenting never stops.
I am too.
Right? The parenting never ever stops, and that's a wonderful thing, a blessing and a curse. It's got both sides of the equation. But I will say this story, this legal case, kind of takes us into what we will be doing next week, and I guess during the week, here on The Right Verdict. We have all heard about the case of Lindsay Clancy. It's all over the news. You talk about poor parenting. Lindsay killed her 3 children. I think they were 5, 2, and 3 months. Strangled them with her bare hand. Well, not with her bare hand. She used exercise bands.
Exercise bands. Ligature strangulation. They were 5, 3, and 8 months.
Yes, and she strangled them in front of each other. Right? It wasn't like she went to their room. She took them in the basement, lined them up, and killed them.
And keep in mind that the older two, the 5 and the 3-year-old, would have known that's what their mother was doing.
Exactly.
The baby, 8 months, not necessarily.
No idea.
But the 5 and the 3-year-old definitely would have known.
Yes. And so then she goes up to the second floor and hurls herself out of a window. So she's paralyzed from the waist down. And her defense is that she had postpartum psychosis, which is real. Let's do that. It's real.
Angela, I know you lying. Angela said she had 4 kids. She never lost any sleep when they were babies. Angela, I know you lying.
Girl, listen. You must have had a heck of a husband, girl. Heck of a husband.
Angela is lying.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, so then she tried to kill herself.
Yes.
Supposedly, allegedly.
Well, she didn't hang herself with any of the straps that would have absolutely done the job, but she threw herself out of the second floor window. And
she did some damage to herself, though. She really did.
I think she's paralyzed, right?
She's paralyzed from the waist down, so she's in a wheelchair.
She broke her cervical spine, I think.
She had some issues. But one of there are a lot of moving pieces to this story. When you talk about, especially in Massachusetts, the way the law is written. In the Commonwealth, the law is written real funky as compared to federal cases in many, many, many states. It's not enough just to know what you were doing was wrong in the Commonwealth. You have to know, and then there has to be like a level of understanding that your behavior didn't conform to norms. So it's pretty hard, and they don't even call it insanity there. So there are a lot of moving pieces to this story. I'm sure you guys have seen the hits about the psychiatrist, one of the psychiatrists that she was seeing, who didn't put things in her medical note, who now wants to, on the witness stand, amend her medical notes. They have released her medication list that reads like a who's who of psychotropic drugs. That was horrifying from a medical perspective. Physicians and psychiatrists and psychologists and emergency room doctors who were all treating the same patient and knew nothing about the other treatment that she was getting. So all of these things have come together. Now, this week we had the former mother-in-law's testimony that she loved her children and that she was a great mom. The ex-husband, great mom. Everybody saying Lindsay had problems. Well, the prosecution saying Lindsay is faking. Lindsay was a labor and delivery nurse.
It's a lot there to unpack.
Mm-hmm. So, now you got a chaplain who's sitting on the stand going, well, I talk to her all the time. And, they read the autopsy report of the 5-year-old, at least they began to, and she started to wail and moan and gnash her teeth to the point where the judge had to dismiss the jury and they needed to take a break. So all of these things to say, was she put on a toxic cocktail that aided in this psychosis? What is going on? Did having these children bumper back to back to back to back have, an effect on her? There are lots of moving pieces to this story. So we want to bring it to you. We want you guys to see this because, my goodness, every time somebody in this case opens their mouth, it's a whole new day of scandal and issues and consequences. What an interesting case. What an interesting.
Our next, that'll be our next case. And the media reaction to this has been insane. Mm-hmm. I mean, this woman has supporters. She has hundreds, thousands of supporters. Yeah, take a look at this one.
One of my sister-in-laws, it could be one of my best friends, and it could be me. So just here to support.
We are hearing her. We see that she tried everything. And I really do believe that she went into a state of psychosis.
It felt like the system failed her. She was begging for help, but no one was there. I don't know if us being here will make her feel any better, but she's living in hell right now. One of my sister-in-laws, it could be one of my...
So there you have. I mean, but again, from what I have read, she never made mention of any issues. And while she was at I'm talking about Lindsay Clancy, she never made mention that she was hearing voices.
Oh, yes, she did. She had
told the doctor.
She reached out. She was suicidal. She had suicidal ideation. She had passive suicidal wishes along the way. She kept saying she did say she did. These are the they've had several psychologists, like Nicole mentioned, the chaplain. Mm-hmm. People are her medication list.
I know she was on a lot of medication, but what I want to know is
she did.
I thought there were no notes that said that she said she was having mental issues. Is that
no? There's plenty of notes that say she had mental issues.
There's plenty of that.
But there was no note that said that she heard voices. So there's a difference between postpartum depression and postpartum
psychosis.
So this psychosis has very, very specific earmarks. And if I'm going to be honest with you, the prosecution is going into the woods with this because
they really are.
They don't have to prove the psychosis. They don't have to prove that. All they have to prove is that she was sane in the moment when she picked up these bungee cords and wrapped them around her children's necks one at a time. And strangled the hell out of these children.
So keep in mind, I'm going to say it this way. Keep in mind, they're not proving that she murdered them. They already know that. That's a given.
Yes, she's already admitted to the
that
crime.
Part is a given. So that's not even necessarily the gist of the trial. They're trying to prove whether or not she had the psychosis, if she was insane, as we would say, at the time that she murdered these children.
Let me ask you this, because I know we have to go, but so it's been proven that she had postpartum. Is that right?
Postpartum depression.
Postpartum depression. Mm-hmm. So but that alone would not get her off for the murder.
Right.
No.
Okay.
No.
The psychosis is what they're saying would be a defense.
Well, because she's remember, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has a two-pronged thing. It's not enough just to know that what you were doing was wrong, but you had to have like some sort of consciousness, right? So we all agree that she had no idea that she was, quote unquote, not in her right mind, right? Whether it was depression, whether it was whatever was going on in her life, but was it profound enough for her to be so withdrawn, so disassociated that she could kill her children and then make an attempt to kill herself without really having the thought process that she just killed her kids and she tried to kill herself. What the state is pushing back on is that she sent her husband to go pick up food and to go to CVS to pick up a prescription. In their minds, that shows that it was a plan, that this was a planned assault on these children, and a plan, basically a suicide attempt on herself. There are countless notes that she's talked to, countless providers that she's talked to about how she felt about, not being able to love this new baby as much as she wanted to, not being able to parent him the way she wanted to. That's a part of that postpartum depression, that she was tired and she just couldn't find it in her. Right. But huge difference between depression and psychosis. You remember we covered the story of the Haitian woman who drowned the baby in the tub, stabbed the husband, stabbed the older daughter, and COVID.
She got off.
She walked away
Exactly.
Well, so I can tell you, in the Commonwealth, she's not going to walk away scot-free. She's, whether she goes to prison or she goes to
a mental illness,
criminally insane, she'll be, held up for quite a few years. They have a way that they take a look at them periodically. So think John Hinckley Jr. John Hinckley is the guy who shot President Reagan. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a voice, Democrat or Republican, who didn't want his head on a stick. Everybody wanted him dead. Everybody. I think even his mom was kind of sitting on the fence about him making it. But he was crazy as the bedbug. No denying that he was crazy as the bedbug. We changed the law after that. There was a significant, especially in federal cases, a significant change that being crazy as the bedbug does not prevent us from dropping the bomb on you. You can be crazy with Jesus. You can be crazy whatever God you believe in. Right. But what we can't do is just release you back into the general public. So
that's what they are. So in Massachusetts, basically, they know that she's responsible. Mm-hmm. The key is she criminally responsible or mentally responsible, basically. Mm-hmm. That's what they're trying to decide.
So where will she go? Will she go to?
Well, another question I have is, now you guys have shed new light on this, that she was known to have mental issues. Why did the husband leave her alone with the kids?
Okay, therein lies the I'm going to say the misunderstanding from the public's perspective. Okay, because even if she does have, or is deemed that she had psychosis, when people, this is not a movie, okay? This is not, I don't know, Norman Bates or whatever. That's not how psychosis necessarily plays out on a day-to-day basis. Because someone may have psychosis does not mean that they cannot have periods of clarity or periods.
Who wants to risk it?
Periods of lucidity.
Who wants to risk it?
The thing is that if you don't know, you don't know. And because she can present, as he even said himself, she can present as, even some of the doctors said this. The
well, just like you said, Shelley, at the beginning of the show, is it probable? If it's probable, which we all clearly see, why would you risk it? You have not one, not two, three babies, which we all are moms know. Mm-hmm. The sanest one, you can be driven crazy.
Absolutely.
By
3 babies. All right. And they're all under 5. Was it all under 5?
5, 3, and 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Who in their right mind would leave her alone with those kids? And she is crazy. She's already having mental health issues. Why would you leave her there? I wouldn't leave her there. If I had to walk out the door and turn around and come back, she wouldn't be with my kids alone.
I hear you, KJ. I hear you. But listening to this testimony, these court proceedings, mm-hmm. There is some, again, whether she goes to jail or mental institution, but even in spite of that, there is some, I would call it room for the medical personnel to be held culpable, not for murder, not for harming the children, mm-hmm. but certainly they do bear some, I would say, some medical negligence at best.
Oh, without question. Without question. Yeah. If I was that ex-husband, listen, the lawsuits will be coming in fast mm-hmm. and furious. If I was a grandparent, the lawsuits would be coming in fast and furious, because there is no reason, as you well know, Shelley, in healthcare, there is no reason for a doctor not to pull your regional report about that patient before you prescribe anything that's anywhere near a CDS drug. You absolutely pull. There was a guy who came into my office. He had a broken ankle. He had crutches. He said, my ankle's broken and I'm in a lot of pain. I need pain medication. I said, sure. I whip out my handy dandy pocket computer and pull up the fact that he's been to 4 other doctors, 2 other hospitals, and in an urgent care, and got medication from each one of them. This is drug-seeking behavior.
Drug-seeking. That's drug-seeking.
So this changes from he's in desperate need for medication, because he had all that, blood pressure was high, pupils was dilated just a little bit. He was crying and snotting all over the place. Yeah, but policy dictates that you pull that history and you know what you're prescribing before you do it. This is the problem I had with every single one of those providers in this case. Nobody pulled the regional report.
And to from what I've seen, I can't even say that she was med seeking. If anything, she was saying, get me off of these medications. Yeah. I mean, they had a Medicaid. It's like, you know how it is. You treat one, and the medication, they give you the other medication to treat the complications or the ramifications, the side effects from one. It's like, it was like a seesaw with these medications. One other thing I noticed with these, the mother and the mother-in-law, they were frustrating for me. They were frustrating for me because I can understand the mother to a degree, but they were frustrating because it's like they did not want to express any anger, any any grief, at least on the stand. They didn't. They seemed like they were going around their way. I mean, out of their way to protect her. It seems like it. To me, it came across that way.
Well, that's the way it came across to me too, until the prosecutor had the mother-in-law actually agree that murder is a mortal sin, because she's Catholic. And the judge by law lost his mind.
Cut that.
But he said, you can't consider that. There's no unringing that bell. There's no unringing that bell. So this case is super juicy, you guys, and we'll be covering it next week. And it's going to be good. So bring your best questions, because there's going to be a lot of people going, just Lord KJ said, why would this husband leave her alone with these kids? That there are actually people who were suggesting the husband did it.
Conspiracy.
If the husband was the real murderer, And then
she already admitted to it, right?
Saying that he abused her, huh? Say that again.
She admitted to doing it. So.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying, but in the social media sphere, people are saying that he did it. He abused her. He set it up before he left, and all this.
There's a lot to say though about these prescriptions. I have my personal story. My mom, she had brain cancer, and they had put her on steroids, and she was crazy. Like, she was so aggressive, and just very she was physical, and my mom was a big woman, and we were talking to the doctors, and my sisters and I, we were like, why is she so anxious? Why is she so aggressive? I mean, she was already kind of a passionate person, but this was like above and beyond. And they said nothing. They said they don't know why, they wouldn't address it. And not until we went into a totally different doctor, they finally gave her another medication to kind of counter these steroids.
That's what
but it was a long time. It was a long, and that's one of the things that
talking about.
Yeah, you taper and you titrate medications. Keep in mind, we often forget medicine is a science. It's the practice of medicine. Okay. Yes, we might go, like Nicole said, you break your leg, you get it set. Those things are kind of pretty definitive, if you will. But particularly where there is serious illness, and not to mention mental illness, because guess what? You can't see mental illness inside the brain. No MRI or a CAT scan is going to show you mental illness. It might show you some brain deformities or abnormalities, but it's not going to show you. So psychiatry in and of itself is a whole different category of practicing medicine. You are really literally practicing with unknowns.
It's really interesting too, because those unknowns change person to person, right? Because you have your own body chemistry and your own metabolic makeup. And some people have tremendous support groups, and some people have a lot of people in their lives who watch them fall apart, right? There are a lot of moving factors when you get into to mental health and behavioral health. So this is why I'm so passionate about these physicians being sued, because they did not check to see what the other people were doing. And it's simple. It's not like back in the day where you had to call and wait on the phone and wait for a fax and this and that, or have a courier bring you a paper chart. It's very simple. It's all on one website, and you can go on and see everything that happened when this person was in the emergency room, all of the medication, what was said. The entire medical note is available to you. So it's not like American medicine did not see this deficit and did nothing. This is the reason why medical practices have EMR now. We don't spend $300,000 on electronic medical records for no reason. The reason is so that we can talk to one another, so we're connected, so we can be what she should have had. She should have had a team instead of a bunch of individuals. She had a bunch of individuals, and she's saying, you know, this medicine is making me anxious. And they said, okay, well, let me give you something for the anxiety.
And then they gave her more of it. They kept giving her more of it. And it was just so frustrating to hear that. But another point I wanted, the mother-in-law, I think it was, the mother-in-law. That the prosecutor asked her that question, but it was one question she asked. I forget. Oh, I think I just lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me. But it was frustrating because she didn't want to. She just did not want to say or acknowledge that this woman murdered her grandchildren. It was just so.
Sometimes in denial. I'm sure that's a hard pill to swallow. I hadn't.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, I'm not blaming them. It just was frustrating for their testimony. They seemed to be more angry that the prosecutor was asking them questions than they were that their daughter and daughter-in-law murdered their grandchildren.
It seems like to me that they were angry that she was even brought to trial.
Yes,
right. This should have, because this happened in 2023.
Right.
That she should have just been, given some private treatment and kept it a private family matter. But, these children deserve justice. And I said this about the Haitian woman too, COVID psychosis, postpartum psychosis. Psychosis is psychosis. You can put anything you want to put on the head of it, but it does not excuse your behavior. The reason why I was so adamant about what happened in Florida is because Florida let this woman go home.
Right.
The other 5 kids and the husband.
You mentioned the psychosis. That's what it was about the mother-in-law. Because when the prosecutor asked her about you're a labor and delivery nurse. She was a labor and delivery nurse for 38 years, I think she said. And the prosecutor asked her, well, did you understand that there was postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis? And she said it could be up to a year. Do you know that mother-in-law said, well, I don't know about that, or I'm not aware of that. And she said, well, you were a labor and delivery nurse for like 38 years. She said, well, it's not always 12 months. It could be longer. But it was like she was giving the prosecutor that friction. And
he should have treated her as a hostile witness.
Well, she was answering the question. No, she was answering the questions, but she was just like it was like she did not want to connect. A labor and delivery nurse, the basics. Now, you might not practice labor and delivery psychiatry, but you know the basics. Postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis is always a possibility up to at least 12 months after that baby's born.
To be clear, to be fair, unless the person has just had foot or toe surgery, then it changes things.
What you talking about, KJ?
Doom, 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 doom,
you know what, KJ? That's enough. I'm going to bed, y'all. I just cannot with KJ tonight. See, this is why she's a night person. She's up cracking jokes all night. Look.
Well, just nevertheless, everybody out there, what do you all think? Put the comments in. Even when we go off, don't forget, just like on Poppin' Politics, go back tomorrow and hype this video. This is a new channel for us. It's a new endeavor. Mm-hmm. So again, we are learning along the way as well. So give us a like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. But we need your support for this channel just as well. We want to hear from you as well.
Without question. You guys know we're passionate. You could tell because we could be on here all night. KJ cracking jokes and me and Shelly talking about healthcare. We could do this all night. So we'll see you next week, though. And it's going to be an interesting week because we're going to have more Karmelo information. We're going to have more Clancy information. This is really, leading to a fall full of tremendous trials because we still have the murder of Charlie Kirk coming. So
I think we have some exciting things coming. You're right. The trial of Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson. I'm looking forward. We're talking about, I'm just going to give you all a little teaser, kind of, sort of. We're talking about some ongoing topics for this particular channel. I personally want to talk about the family annihilators, different ones, different times and places. But I think that is such a riveting category of true crime.
I agree. I'm just looking forward to Taser Tuesdays. I like body cam footage of people getting shocked the hell out of them. I really enjoy that. I do. I think the taser and these new tasy gloves, the new gloves that they got where they put the hands on you and shock the hell out you, I'm in for that. I think they should probably have like Spider-Man where they could just like sling it at people 40, 50 feet.
Ooh.
I'm in. Taser. Let's go.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday. Make sure you hit the notification bells on this channel because we're probably going to post the live feeds of these cases. So they will be on throughout the week. So definitely look out for that. And we'll see you tomorrow on Poppin' Politics.
I'm sorry, KJ. We got our super chats. We got to read. We had a couple super chats. Okay, I think that's it. Butterbean. Hi, Butterbean. Thank you for your $20. Well, if they can't use the water hoses, this looks great. Everyone needs body cams. Ice, baby.
These are old. These are from last week. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Butterbean. Anyway. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we were talking about the gloves and water hoses. It was
really interesting. All right, everybody.
Episode.
Yes, indeed. All right. That does it for us then. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Good night.